yes, hi everyone. I'm Rory Hope. I am the head of content SEO at HubSpot, and I will be taking you through the hub today, which is about SEO content strategy and how you can go about developing a roadmap for producing a top quality SEO strategy for your business. So here's a little bit about me to kick us off. So I've been in inbound marketing, SEO growth for about a decade now. I've worked with a number of leading B2B SaaS brands and startups during that time. Previously to HubSpot, I was at a global HR SaaS business called Remote. And before that, I spent about 8 years growing an agency in London called Symmetrical. And during that time, I was very fortunate to work with a number of these type of businesses in B2B and SaaS space specifically, like Stripe, Cloudflare, and I had a really good time doing it. And it's given me a lot of knowledge about B2B SEO, inbound marketing, which led me on ultimately to HubSpot. Of course, I'd love to connect. So here are my social handles. My Twitter is @RoryHope. My LinkedIn is Rory Hope. And I have a website, roryhope.com, and I run Rory's blog, which is a newsletter. Great. So let's look through the agenda today. So we're going to start off with some SEO truths that I've learned over the years. Then we're going to go through the bulk of the presentation, the hub today, which is a roadmap for developing an SEO content strategy and how SEO as a channel plays into the wider channel mix and supports an overall inbound approach to business. Then we'll go through a quick 10 tactics and plays you could use tomorrow, followed by the Q&A. And there's also an appendix with useful resources that you can get access to after the session, because there's a lot of information packed into the hub today. So I'm hoping you'll be able to take away a lot and the slides and then dive into it all after the event. Quick disclaimer, this presentation does contain some product placement, but ultimately almost all of that, if not all of that, are content offers from HubSpot. So things like templates that you can then use to do a significant part of this SEO content strategy and work through different parts of the roadmap. So let's get started with some SEO truths then. Firstly, SEO results take time. Secondly, SEO is not free traffic. You have to invest in things like content writers, research, and of course, technology and tools to make SEO work. A lot of people think it's free traffic. It's a misconception. You do need to invest the right resources to see results. With SEO, especially more and more these days, write for your audience, not just for your keywords. Of course, those of you who follow SEO news know that there's currently an helpful, I call it unhelpful content rollout. It's the helpful content rollout by Google, which is ultimately trying to find out when SEOs are writing specifically to game search engines using AI and maybe too much of a keyword focused approach versus considerations around their audience. So with SEO, remember, you are writing for an audience, not just keywords. Content production scalability is likely going to be your biggest concern. And you will need backlinks. You'll need to build backlinks to rank for very high difficulty keywords, probably most keywords, but certainly the high difficulty ones. You will need to go through an approach for building backlinks. So let's kick off with the roadmap, an overview of how to develop an SEO content strategy. So we're going to firstly cover the foundations, so things to consider when selecting your website platform, your CRM, and also establishing those SEO foundations and SEO goals. We'll then talk about considerations around resourcing and budget planning, moving on then to how to develop your buyer personas using modern techniques like audience intelligence platforms, and how that's then used to actually facilitate or to grow SEO over time rather than just focusing on keywords. We're going to talk about some of the quick win CRM setups that you can work towards, i.e. establishing some initial automations and starting to consider your inbound strategy, of which SEO plays a crucial role. So we'll then go through a top level approach to SEO market research, competitor intelligence, and developing your SEO roadmap. Then moving to how you can publish content at scale in line with your SEO recommendations or your SEO insights from the market research. Then a very important part of the process, which is distributing that content, repurposing it, and leveraging social media. And finally, when we're at that mature stage of our SEO content strategy, what we need to consider and some tactics to go about acquiring backlinks through tactics like digital PR. So let's kick off then. So choosing an SEO-friendly website CMS is crucial to the beginning of your SEO content strategy. You're going to want to consider things like making sure your CMS has an SSL certificate for security, because Google looks at this in order to put some, there's a ranking weighting that goes into that for the performance of your content. You've got to consider if your website CMS enables basic technical SEO implementations. Things like, does it allow you to update metadata? Does it allow you to add schema markup to your web pages? Or can you easily access a developer or a service on the CMS to set up schema on your website? How fast is your website? How the page templates that are offered with your CMS or that you're custom building, what are their scores in Google's Core Web Vitals and page speed insights? Because you're going to want a fast website to rank in the search engines. Fast web pages when compared to the competitors as a key metric to look at when analyzing SEO performance against your competitors. Does your website CMS allow you to launch landing pages with ease? Ultimately, can you then update your CMS easily? Because a lot of companies get into a state where they can't update their CMS easily. And SEO is a game of A/B testing and test and learn, iterative changes. And if you can't update basic components on a web page, basic elements, you're going to be in a spot of bother. And finally, I think making sure that your CMS and CRM integrate well is key. So for instance, can you easily add a form to a web page and then pass contact details to your CRM? I've listed CMSs on the top right. Of course, HubSpot recently launched CMS Free, which you can go and check out if you'd like, because it easily integrates with the HubSpot CRM. So another component of setting up your core foundations for an SEO content strategy to deliver leads is to set up a CRM and select a CRM that is going to easily integrate with your CMS. And when you do consider that, think about your customer database size now and how it will scale over time. So a number of the CRM providers offer you a solution, and that solution can then scale dependent on the number of contacts. So make sure you consider that for your business when selecting a CRM. A huge benefit for an SEO content strategy is making sure that your CRM offers pre-built in landing pages for content authors. These are ultimately page templates with forms that allow you to direct users to pages where you offer them something more. Maybe it's a white paper, maybe it's a guide, maybe it's a webinar, and then you can get the contact details. Lots of CRMs don't offer that in an easy out the box package. Make sure you select one that does. And then of course, email automation and live chat, mechanisms of engaging leads and nurturing them through the buyer's journey. I've listed a number of leading CRMs here, and of course, HubSpot has a free CRM. When you're setting up your SEO foundations, it's really important to make sure you have Google Search Console set up and integrated with Google Analytics. Lots of businesses don't have this done at an early stage, or even when they're at quite a mature stage in terms of SEO. I've listed 2 guides there when you get the slides from HubSpot. Certainly worth focusing in on getting this integration set up early on. It will give you a lot of insights into things like the historical performance of your website, it's SEO, the keywords that have been driving traffic to your website, and that will allow you then to go about defining your SEO goals. So when you do go about defining your SEO goals, there's sort of 4 key areas that I would recommend you consider. So make sure you're setting SMART goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-orientated goals. When you are setting up your SEO goals, look at historical performance for seasonality, average year-on-year and month-on-month growth rates, and use that to forecast potential SEO growth. This is, of course, where Google Search Console and Google Analytics being set up correctly and integrated will really help with that process. Definitely recommend that you look at your competitor SEO performance and complete your keyword research, because ultimately this is going to give you an understanding of what's the total addressable market. And you can use their SEO performance estimates to inform your forecasts. Suggest using tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs for that. And of course, monitor SEO KPIs. So make sure you select the right KPIs. I like to think of hard and soft metrics. Hard metrics are users from organic, conversions from organic, and soft metrics are things like keyword rankings and organic time on site, ultimately UX. So now that we've talked about those foundations and setting up your goals, let's consider your resources and budget planning. So when you are considering the resources you need to allocate to SEO and the associated budgets you might need to allocate, think about planning your resources and budget early on. Think about the fact that you're going to be investing most, well, when I say most, a significant proportion of your budget in technologies, platforms, and tools. Some people think SEO is free. It's not. You have to invest a lot of money in technology and tools to make it work, to get the insights, to make the right decisions. Decide on your in-house agency or freelancer mix, or consult your clients on that. Invest in SEO research. Don't try and do it without the basics in place. Competitor intelligence. And of course, when that's set up, invest in content production. You won't move the needle if you can't if you don't have the budget to produce content or the access to resources to do so. It's very important when consulting your clients, if you're an agency as well, to make them understand that that's a really key part of the process. And be realistic about the expected ROI from SEO. Of course, the results aren't going to happen overnight. You can often look, we like to plan between 3, 6, 12, 24 months when we look at our estimates on growth when we plan SEO campaigns. So now we've talked about considerations around resourcing and budget. Let's dive into how you can go about developing buyer personas, why they're important, and what is audience intelligence, and why is it something you should probably take a look at. So the buyer persona development process. So ultimately, developing buyer personas is really about creating content and messaging that appeals to the target audience or to your target audiences. You can then personalize your marketing to your buyer persona segment's buyer's journey. They're often unique to each buyer persona. They should be, in fact. And that allows you then to map content to your buyer persona's pain points, their challenges, the goals that they have, and crucially, their interests, which is what we're going to go into when we talk about audience intelligence. I've also linked to persona tool, which gives you a nice template to use, which you can access after the session. Make sure you have your persona set up before diving in to an SEO content strategy. Here's an example buyer persona. So some of the things that you want to consider when creating a buyer persona are, have you understood exactly what their goals and challenges are? So what are they looking to achieve? What are the roadblocks in relation to that success pattern? And what can you do as a business, as a service, as a software to help them achieve their goals? And then where do they hang out? Do they hang out on Twitter, on LinkedIn, in forums? And then you can then craft your marketing messages accordingly. What is so crucial in buyer persona development, which a lot of businesses fail to do, is to actually to user research or customer research directly with your customers that align with your buyer persona segments and get real quotes from them. Speak to your sales teams. If you have user research teams or your client does, try to get them involved with this process so that you can start to put real examples of quotes to your personas. Make sure they're not fictional. They have to have weight to them, real facts and quotes from your customers or from your users. Now, I'm going to introduce you to, if you're not familiar with already, audience intelligence software and why it's becoming a more and more important part of the overall SEO content mix or the inbound marketing approach. So these are two tools that are two of the leading audience intelligence tools out there at the moment. You have Audience and you have SparkToro, which is actually founded by Rand Fishkin, who's one of the earliest SEOs that people became familiar with within the industry. He set up Moz, founded Moz. But I'm going to dive into Audience today and show you a process of how you can use this tool. And it offers free reports if you sign up for establishing and better understanding your buyer personas and how that links to your SEO content strategy. This is actually what I'm talking about, inbound. I'm doing a 90-minute deep dive on this process. So it's exciting that I get to share it now ahead of then. So with Audience, this is what you might get, or this is what you would get when you upload the Twitter accounts of your business and your competitors' businesses or your SEO competitors, well for your target keywords. This is the report that you will get using the tool. What it does is it breaks down the audience segments based upon their social behaviors. So it's clustered them based on comment bio keywords, but ultimately when you dive into them, they're clustered on their interests. Which other Twitter accounts do Twitter users that share these characteristics engage with, follow, and comment on? I comment, like, ultimately total engagements. And this will allow you ultimately to get a better understanding of your personas. So this is the CRM industry. So we've uploaded HubSpot and our SEO competitors like Zoho and Salesforce. And we get a good understanding here when we use audience of exactly who our personas are on social media. So if we dive into the creative business bio persona, which is ultimately creative marketing professionals, immediately we get a nice view of all of their interests, the accounts they engage with, and that allows us to get a good understanding of exactly who they are and where they consume their content, where do they consume their information, and then what can we learn from that to map into our own content strategy, and how can we make that support our SEO objectives. So what you can then do with those influencers for your persona that you found in audience is you can go to a tool like Hootsuite, which is ultimately for publishing on social, but you can set up Twitter lists by going into your Twitter account, logging in for free in Hootsuite. You can then go to streams, add a stream, add a list, and name your lists, your keyword topic, and then your persona, and go about uploading the influencers that you found using an audience intelligence tool for that persona or that social consumer segment, that audience segment. And suddenly you can set up lists tracking the most relevant tweets from all of the influencers of your personas, which is a really effective way of staying on the pulse of what content is being published, what's trending, and what you can then write about targeted to your keyword topics, your target keyword topics that are also going to appeal to your persona. So it's not just about writing for the keyword. You're looking at what is going to engage my audience and who is that audience, and what are their influencers talking about. And then you can analyze that trending content and you can get a good understanding of what you should consider publishing about, or can you offer something to the overall industry narrative that's being discussed in relation to a certain topic your persona is interested in. So an example from the creative business or the creative marketing professional persona here, there's a lot of talk about UK data protection laws, authenticity in advertising, podcasts, brand emotional responses, dating in the metaverse, so ultimately Web3, metaverse, NFTs. And we can then tailor our SEO content strategy relating to the CRM keyword topic that we use to upload the relevant Twitter accounts into audience to then inform your SEO content strategy. So once you've considered your buyer personas, it's worth having a look at your CRM setup as it currently is, and look at setting up initial inbound marketing plays and some automation. So set up your CRM. There's loads out there. Do choose one, of course, that offers some of the foundational aspects of what you would like a CRM to do. Sort of those functions that are so key to a CRM and why you would use one. Firstly, of course, using a CRM to segment your customers. Segment your customers based upon things like job function or seniority or industry. Here's some fictional data, but this is an example of how you might segment your customer database. And then what you can do is, upon segmenting your customer database, is you want to then go about defining the buyer's journey of each one of those database segments. And your database segments should map across to your buyer personas that you identified at the earlier stage. Now at HubSpot, we talk a lot about flywheels, and of course they're extremely important. They put an emphasis on delighting existing customers to then drive new and to then attract new customers. But to keep things simple, consider the buyer's journey funnel for each of your buyer personas and map them where possible to your customer, to your CRM, to your customer database. And at that point, you can then use content to transition your personas through the funnel. So leverage your buyer persona insights, things like their goals, their challenges, your audience intelligence reports, where you've got an understanding of their interests, their influencers, the social posts that their influencers are talking about, what are those topics, and start to craft a persona content mapping document. So Look at the 3 key stages of awareness, consideration, and decision, and then identify content ideas that will help to transition your buyer personas through that buyer's journey throughout their life cycle towards conversion ultimately. I would say at this point, consider how you can set up and automate email workflows. So a quick example might be set up a review generation email workflow using a CRM tool like HubSpot. So when you are going about setting up the sort of foundational CRM functionality, a quick one would be, can you send an email to any of those users who have converted or customers who have converted to leave you a review on Google or on Trustpilot? And there's a number of other review platforms, third-party review platforms that you can leverage to then improve your presence online. A very quick win. Highly recommend you take a look if you haven't got this set up already. And then at this point, we've now got, we've got insights into our personas. We've set up our basic CRM automation and our inbound strategies kind of started to get fleshed out. Now we're going to look into our SEO market research. Now you could do this earlier in the process. It's just, it does work here as well. Now that we know who our personas are, we're going to be able to dive into what topics they might search around in a greater detail than if we did it in the reverse order. So the keyword research, the keyword intelligence process really consists of 3 key stages: keyword research, search landscape analysis, and then developing your keyword targeting strategy. So the keyword research phase to kick us off. Well, firstly, it starts with identifying keywords. And now here are some tools that I recommend you use to do that. If you have Google Search Console set up and Google Analytics integrated with Google Search Console, you can use that to identify keywords that drove historical performance for your online business. If you're paying using PPC or have been in the past, leverage Google Ads keyword data to see which keywords have been driving traffic and importantly, conversions. And if you have access, or I highly recommend you invest in a SEMrush or an Ahrefs, because these are SEO tools that allow you to spy on your competitors and see which keywords they're generating traffic from, and bring all of this data into an Excel doc or a Google Sheets document, where you're then going to manipulate the data to better understand sort of what's going on in the search results and what can you learn from that to inform your SEO content strategy. So once you've got your keywords from using the tools that we just ran through, you're probably going to end up with hundreds, thousands, tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of keywords. And the most important thing to think about is you're going to want to segment your keywords into topics and subtopics. And that's because Google and search engines evaluate websites or online entities, businesses, performance, their authority and relevance at a topic level. It doesn't look at things holistically. It looks at websites and their authority and relevance at a topic level. So you're going to want to segment your keywords. You're going to want to tag all of those keywords you've identified into topics. Here's an example: CRM, marketing, sales, and then subtopics. And now these subtopics can be auxiliary keywords that kind of change the meaning somewhat, or they can be intent keywords such as CRM solutions, which means that it's a very transactional intent keyword. You can look at the marketing topic and then the subtopic of planners, and then you would tag a keyword marketing plan template as marketing and planners. You've also got sales here with another informational subtopic of tips, and you would tag the keyword sales tips as those 2 topic and subtopics, because that's going to allow you then to filter down at a keyword topic and subtopic level and find the groupings of keywords that share the same user intent, and you're going to craft your SEO strategy at a very granular level there. Once we've got those keywords and we've got them tagged, we're going to want to do our search landscape analysis. This is crucial in the overall SEO research and strategy development process. So what does search landscape analysis entail? Well, it entails you looking at the competitors, the websites that rank well for the keyword topics and subtopics that you've identified, and understanding why that might be. What content have they produced? And what does that tell us about the search engine results page intent? What do users want when they type in sales tips? Do they want a long form blog post? Do they want a video? Do they want a transactional page? It's probably going to be the former. So you can then look at the page templates of your SEO competitors and use that to prioritize your keywords and structure your keyword targeting strategy. Here's a sort of overview. We don't need to go into too much detail here. This is kind of best practice approach to competitor SEO and search engine results page analysis. Keyword research, tag your keywords, and then upload those tagged keywords into a ranking tracking solution. GetStat is an enterprise one where you get all the competitor data and you can export that, and then you can do pivot tables on it in Excel and identify which websites rank best for those topics and subtopics, and then zero in on the specific page as well that ranks really well for a certain subtopic, and use that to inform your SEO keyword strategy. So you can also use Ahrefs and SEMrush. They will not provide the same level of data, but they are far more cost effective. And there's a bit more manual work that'll be involved, but you can still use them. And what will this do? Well, this will allow us to understand our SEO competitors. So they're not always direct competitors. They often are. They're not always. For overall research and provide you with detailed insights to help you craft your SEO content strategy. Here's an example for CRM with some fictional data here, but this is what it might look like. So you have, if I uploaded 60 or so keywords tagged as CRM, and then I looked at which websites ranked for the most keywords at the lowest average rank, I would then see a breakdown like this. And then that will allow me then to dive into exactly what and why are these SEO competitors doing to perform well for the CRM keyword topic. Am I missing anything? Am I improving upon my keywords? Sorry, am I doing something better than my competitors? And that allows you to plan your SEO content strategy accordingly. And this is the next stage. So once you've got all that information, you can build out your keyword targeting strategy. And this is a snapshot of HubSpot's insights report, which we submit to our media teams from the SEO department on a regular basis. And ultimately, what you're going to want to do is use all that research to understand and identify all of your focus keywords and clustering them onto specific topics. This is called SEO topic modeling. This is called SEO hub page and spoke model. This is called the SEO pillar page strategy. And what you're going to want to do is see, okay, my buyer personas, my audience are interested in these topics that relate to my business and my business's services, products. Now, what do I have a hub page that's going to talk all about that topic, and then link off to spoke pages that also internally link back to the hub page, and show a search engine that you've got a good amount of authority and coverage of a certain topic. And what will happen is you'll see all of the performance of all the other pages rise as you improve your topic coverage. So the example here on screen, you can see at the top social media marketing, which is a key topic for one of HubSpot's buyer personas. And what we do is we look through the ways in which people search, and we try to identify every focus keyword that requires a separate content asset to be produced. And then if you jump along your eye to the right-hand side of the screen, you can see secondary keywords. And now those are keywords that ultimately are returning the same search results as the focus keyword. And you're going to want to cluster them all into one asset with a single URL and have that link back to your hub page. And that is a very traditional but very effective means of developing an SEO content strategy. And you should use your search landscape analysis and your keyword research to inform that, and keep refreshing it. Keep refreshing it because the search results change all the time. This is your bread and butter document and process for developing a SEO content strategy still in 2022 and will be in 2023 and beyond. So now that we know we've got all our insights, we've got our plan, we've got our roadmap, we're going to talk about how to go about publishing content, how you do ongoing SEO, and how do you scale that production. Well, as mentioned, topic clustering is really key. We did just go over that. Here's some nice visuals of that. If you imagine social media marketing, there in the orange example, we'd have a hub page for social media marketing in the middle, and then we would have all of those other pages that target similar intents or subtopics within social media that then link back to the hub page. Now, I'm going to use an example for CRM with HubSpot. Now, I do apologize. I think the text might be a little bit too small to fully read, but we, with our CRM keyword topic, would have a hub page on the right, which is our sort of overall CRM page that provides users with all the information they need to know about what is a CRM, and it links off to loads of different articles that cover up different ways in which people are searching about CRMs and covering all of those different intents. And all of those pages link back to this hub page. And that's what generates the traction and the results. Among other things, of course, it's SEO. There's loads of factors at play, but this is a really good approach that you have control over as an SEO content strategist. You can see, well, you might not be able to see, so I will read it out, but some of the subtopics we've identified are how to use a CRM, CRM examples, why do I need a CRM, types of CRM, CRM database, NFT CRM, CRM strategies 2023, CRM data laws. And each one of these requires a separate asset for us to create and link back to our CRM hub page. And of course, we can not only use our keyword insights, but we can use our influencer analysis in Hootsuite for our personas to inform this content production, to keep it relevant to our audience, not just keyword informed. And that's what this might look like. So if we've exhausted all of the evergreen keywords, we're going to want to use our social listening, that we set up in Hootsuite earlier, using the audience report. And we can start to listen to all of the trends, all of the engaging content topics at this moment in time. And we might come up with some ideas of content to produce that's relevant to CRM, so we can link to our hub page, as you saw in the previous slide, but it's really topical. It's trending. It will probably get social media pickup. It could earn backlinks. You could put it out as a digital PR campaign if you didn't want it as a a blog content piece on your website. But some examples of ideas might be a checklist for preparing a CRM for UK data protection laws, how to optimize your podcast for email newsletter signups, predictions for CRM strategies in the metaverse, how to use NFTs to improve retention and engagement, expert opinions on how to build a two-way customer communication in 2023, and a survey around brand emotional responses and producing an index. These are things that your audience are going to want to read, they're relevant, they're trending, and you can link them back to your CRM hub page and get results. I do recommend you use an editorial calendar to manage production. I've listed a nice template there for you if you haven't got one already in play, which you'll be able to get after the hub. And when you talk about scaling production, I really recommend you consider leveraging freelancer content writer networks. Just make sure you have a structured QA process in place and you are sharing really comprehensive SEO briefs built on your research to inform the freelance writers' sort of production focus. And you will need most likely to have not just an SEO in that process, but certainly a sort of editor or content specialist there who's better at the editing side of things. I've experienced that in a number of companies and working with a number of clients that's really important part of this process. It takes a long time to QA content. But this is a way of scaling. So be realistic with your resources there. Now, we talked a lot about the keyword targeting strategy. We talked a lot about topic clustering. We talked a lot about producing blog posts that are relevant, that are trending, that are linked back to your hub pages for your topics. But make sure that you're planning content offers and adding call to actions within your blog posts that allow you to capture leads. So instead of just giving away all the information for free, which is what you need to do to rank well on a search engine, to generate the traffic, you also want to hold some back and then gate it ultimately to put up a form to allow people to get something extra for their details, for their lead information. And that then will allow you to distribute content to them and nurture them through your CRM automation. So now we're on to the second final stage of our SEO content roadmap, and that's content distribution, repurposing, and social media marketing. Because it's actually going to help your SEO efforts, even though Google isn't looking at social media data, or at least we don't think they are. And I don't know if anyone's heard of the rule, but for every 20% of resources that you funnel in to, for every 100% of resources you have, 20% should go on production of content and 80% on distribution. So this is a key phase. And here are some of our content distribution channels at a top level. It's important to think about things in terms of your own channels, your paid channels, and your earned channels, and how they interact with each other. And you can leverage those, you can leverage different clusters of channels to generate results and help to distribute your content. And I think one thing to point out in 2022 and moving forwards is just the importance of community and community management. So think about how you can allocate your resources. And we've got a guide that I've linked to that has a lot more depth than we can go through in this session today. But think about with your content production resources and with your team's resources overall, you're going to want to allocate time to customer support and success, and then producing case studies off the back of that can then help you to nurture and convert leads. You're going to want to hold product ideation, innovation, and feedback sessions, and have a community that's able to regularly feedback on product improvements. You're going to want to leverage content for acquisition and advocacy. So how can you work with influencers and host campaigns that they can get involved with and share? Content and programming, which are things like events, think hug events, and building communities around hugs. And then external engagements, ultimately using your social channels effectively to promote all of this and everything else that you've planned out with your content strategy. Here's a social publishing calendar that you can use that will be available in the resources section afterwards as well. And some four key tactics. Launch a company and founder newsletter if you can, or if you haven't already. Leverage your email marketing and CRM to do so. Publish on social media. Of course, it sounds so simple, but make sure you're repurposing your content and publishing it on social. For every blog post you have, plan out 10, 15 social posts across various channels as a minimum, and keep that distributing over a couple of months or longer, or whenever it's seasonally relevant. Create a private community, something you can invite members into, and that they have to give their details to be in, or at least to actively join. And then it's sticky. You can keep sharing your content with them and create a more loyal customer base. And of course, email outreach for link building, which is quite traditional. We're going to go through that in the final step in a second, but sending outreach emails and distributing your content to influencers and bloggers and editors to get content placements and backlinks, which helps SEO, is so key. And it continues to be so key. It's been key for a long time, and it still is. And that brings us on nicely to the final stage, which is ongoing backlink acquisition and digital PR. Best way to go about this is to look at those SEO competitors you identified in your keyword research and search landscape analysis, part of this roadmap. And when you see a keyword topic and you know which websites rank well, analyze them in Ahrefs, which is a tool that you would have to pay for. But again, with SEO, you have to pay for tools and technology. This is one of the ones I recommend you consider using or do use. And look at which websites of your SEO competitors have a lot of referring domains, separate websites that are linking into them, and how many backlinks. And then you can dive in to upload their URL, their website into Ahrefs search bar, and then you can go and dive into the best pages by links, which is at the bottom left of the screen there. And then you can get a list of all of an entity or a website's pages and those which have the most links into them from separate websites. Use that as inspiration for your own campaigns, because you know it's working for that industry or for your competitors or for your personas. And then that allows you then to come up with your own ideas, but based on things that you think work, if it's formats or if it's trends. Example being here with HubSpot State of Marketing Report, you might look at that and plan to create something similar if you were in our space. And put your own twist on it. Look at those trends that relate to your personas and add that, layer that onto your report or your survey. And this is a cornerstone linkable asset. This is an asset that you're going to want to outreach and distribute over and over again. And you can use Ahrefs to then find from that certain asset that influenced your decision-making on producing a similar type of asset that should earn backlinks. Look at your competitors. Where do they get their links from? Look at referring domains, and then dive into the specific pages that linked to your competitors' cornerstone link assets, and then try and find editor or writer or influencer contact information and plan out your prospect list. These are your link targets ultimately. And then outreach with outreach emails, and try and get coverage on relevant blogs and publications. This is a very traditional way of doing SEO, but it still is effective and works. Don't spam guest posts. Each one needs to offer a lot of value, and make sure that the sites you're trying to get links from are reputable. Check their link profiles, and never pay for links. And if you earn them, you'll see results. And think about things at a topic level. Remember, we've been talking about topics the whole time. Plan around topics and subtopics. and do your outreach and PR in relation to those topics. And everything starts to come together really nicely in a sort of really coherent and well-planned SEO content strategy. And that's your SEO content strategy roadmap for success. A significant amount of info packed into that, probably too much, in fact. But hopefully, when we share that with you afterwards, there's a huge appendix with all the assets, all the resources, all the templates for you to take away and use. And I'd love to talk through this with you if anyone wants to connect after the event, of course. We'll leave with 10 tactics and plays you could use tomorrow. So number 1, select a leading CRM for your business. Number 2, import your customer database into your CRM if you haven't already. Number 3, make your buyer personas. Here's a tool to do it. Number 4, segment your CRM contacts and personalize your marketing. Segment them based on your personas wherever possible. Create your keyword targeting planner. So this is the lifeblood. This is the repeatable process of SEO. You need to use your SEO research to build this. Create a tailored content offer for lead generation. Think of your topics and your subtopics. What content can you hold back? And then gate behind a form that you entice your visitors, your website visitors to download or to share after an event potentially. Look at review people also ask in related searches for SEO content ideas. So if you type in keywords like your brand name or other topics, subtopics, you should see in the people also ask other keyword ideas to improve your SEO content strategy. Create a review generation automation workflow. That sounds great. And it's very easy to build if you have sort of a CRM that allows marketing automation. It's often a pre-built in, out-the-box thing you can build through your CRM as well. So do take a look at that. I highly recommend it. Launch a Slack or Discord community. This is probably more relevant if you're in tech and software, but if you're not, what about WhatsApp? Think about ways in which you can get your customers or your users into sticky groups, sticky communities where you can ask questions and content can be shared very regularly. And finally, I know this one's an old one, but it's a good one. Launch a company or founder newsletter. It's a very effective way of keeping leads engaged and nurturing them through to new points of contact, opportunities to convert. And yes, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, I think now we're over to a Q&A. And as I said, I'd love to connect with you all after the event to run through anything in particular of the presentation.
Hey, Rory, that was just excellent. We could talk about this stuff all day. It's what we do, right? No specific Q&A questions from the group. I think you've probably just blown everybody's minds with the amount of work. And maybe this is a comment for you, and I feel it a lot when I talk to people. There's a lot there. And if you're a business owner, or even if you're a marketer, SEO can be quite intimidating. It can be quite sort of intense, and you can look at all of this and typically you just end up doing nothing and then just maybe do what I call random acts of marketing, create a couple of blog posts and hope it's all going to be all right. Yeah. Where would you, there's a question in here somewhere, where would you start if this is a bit much for you, and where do you get going?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I would say the best place to start would be in the persona research, thinking about, as a base, who are you marketing to? What are their use cases for using your product or alternative products or services? What are their interests? And making sure that that's agreed upon across a marketing function or within an organization, big or small. Make sure that they're not, as best you can, make sure they're not fictionalized. Make sure that you actually get speaking to customers, and then map their customer journeys, their buyers' journeys, and then see where you can add content assets to it to sort of improve the nurturing and the lead nurturing and transitioning people through the funnel. I think the thing with buyer personas is they're quite friendly because they don't require as much technical knowledge to produce, but often people have missed them early on, and then you're kind of missing a key part of the inbound foundational methodology, the foundation of the inbound methodology. Then out of everything else, I think that was in that presentation, keyword research and making sure that you get an agency or a marketer in-house or an SEO freelancer to go about that process, that finding the keywords, clustering them on topics and subtopics, and then putting together a planner so that you're not just producing blog posts for blog posts' sake. You've got personas, keywords, and then you can build a roadmap. And then when you have the resource to produce on that, so you're not wasting resources. And the first, minimal technical knowledge, but very important to get in front of customers and survey them. And the second one, yes, you will need technical knowledge, the tools, the processes, but there are a lot of SEO agencies, good ones, of course, out there, and in-house SEOs you can bring in, or freelancers that you should get to do that for you before you start publishing lots of different content.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, when we talk to clients about this, one of the ways I try and put it is around the personas and the buyer's journey. Think about the problems and goals for those people. Because as a business, you'll know what those problems and goals are. By definition, you know, you're going to be solving some of them, hopefully. So that's an easy place to start. You know, problems and goals, and help people, right? So you're writing helpful content, remarkable content. And I think one of your slides mentioned it before, is you're not writing for the keywords predominantly. You're writing specifically for the persona to help. So I think that's a really good point. Here's a sort of HubSpot-y type question for you. Because we didn't really go into the world of HubSpot so much. This is very much SEO, which is applicable to everybody. HubSpot itself has grown on its sort of capabilities to help with this type of work, and there's a lot of stuff in there that certainly many people don't know is there. You know, the topic tool is just brilliant. They've recently added, you know, the Google Search Console integration, and a lot of sort of data is now flowing back in around keywords, which were sort of dropped years ago. So it's nice to see all that coming back. Maybe this is something you can't necessarily say specifically, because I know inbound is coming up. Can you give us some kind of idea of the HubSpot's journey and their roadmap for SEO and what we kind of going to see in the future?
Yeah, so I guess specifically for SEO, there will be, of course, a lot more released at inbound, which would be good to view and to learn about. But I would say it's about we're really focusing on making the ease of updating your CRM a key focus for a HubSpot user in the future. So with the launch of HubSpot's new CMS free recently, that's our key play in relation to that. And what we're going to be doing is just building upon that, making it better and better and better, and ultimately trying to HubSpot to be that resource that you go to, rather than WordPress, rather than Wix, to actually build a site that is lightning fast, easy to edit, has every single SEO functionality you would need from an on-page perspective, and other off-page planning mechanisms, and make that free ultimately, so that everyone can use it, because that's obviously been a key HubSpot focus for many years, is the freemium model. How can we get more and more people using the platform, and benefiting from it? And that's a key focus for us, just improving the CMS functionality of HubSpot, because we know the CRM, it's famous, it's great. We're trying to take CMS to the next level.
In terms of, I mean, that's the CMS. You've mentioned many sort of external tools, and a lot of those tools are expensive. I mean, we spend thousands and thousands on SEO tools, which we sort of use for our client work. Are you seeing, or do you think there's going to be a trend of HubSpot themselves starting to add more and more sort of SEO tool type functionality back into the product, or into the product?
So that one, that's something that there's always happening. It's always being discussed in and around the company. I think it's one where there's a prioritization going on at all times, and I think my knowledge of exactly where that sits on the roadmap is not quite where it would be to answer that question for you, sort of at the level that you would want. But I know that with how things are moving, anything that we can do that's going to improve the experience for a user with data that's easy to bring into the platform via an integration or something along those lines is something that we are looking at all times. I think if you're talking about will HubSpot map against Ahrefs as a key competitor very shortly, that I couldn't really answer for you, but it's certainly something that would be exciting to think about.
I think so, and I don't think that's going to happen. You're not going to be replacing, Moz or SEMrush, Ahrefs, but I think some of the basic functionality is creeping in, and I think it's really, really useful. I don't have any other questions. Tamara, do you have anything you want to add?
No, just to say thank you. As you said, that was a lot of information, but it's all usable. I think I have to take it in some chunks. But yeah, as I said, thank you so much, and good luck in Boston. Just really jealous I won't be there, but
Rory, I will be there to listen to your talk in Boston. So
oh, fantastic. Yeah, we'll look forward to connecting there. And so thank you both for having me, and thank you to everyone who took time out of their day to attend the session. Please connect. We can talk you through anything. The appendix has all the resources. And yeah, I hope to see you all soon.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Bye.